Good morning if you have just joined us. Edith here with you until 10 o'clock this morning. We've got fun stuff coming up this morning. James Lavelle is going to be live in the studio picking tunes, talking about this documentary that's been made about him, the man from Mowax, which is phenomenal. The music in this documentary alone just kind of gets every hair on your body standing on end. So he's going to be here after 9 o'clock. If you've got any questions, get them in at Virgin Radio UK.
Virgin Radio.
The Triple Play with Mobile from Virgin Media. Your phone, your rules.
Right then, good morning. It's 3 minutes after 9. It is Thursday, October the 13th. Joining us shortly, Mr. James Lavelle is going to be here talking about a really wonderful documentary called The Man from Mowax that is playing as part of the programme for the BFI London Film Festival. And some of you may well know, be huge fans of James through his work with Mowax Records, UNKLE, DJ Shadow, that whole connection, and the music that he brought to our ears over the years. But the documentary is such an honest and terrifying and brilliant journey that he's been on. So looking forward to having him here to talk about that.
Virgin Radio.
The Triple Play with Mobile from Virgin Media. Your phone, your rules.
That is an absolute joy to play that, UNKLE, Cowboys and Indians, and it's a pleasure to welcome James Lavelle to the show. Hello, mate, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad.
Yeah, thanks for getting up early for us.
All good.
Mornings. The
mornings,
fear! Yeah, welcome to our world. Listen, first of all, thank you for the tracks you picked as well this morning. That's what's really nice about having guests and asking them to pick a couple of tunes to, I guess, set the tone for the final hour of the show.
The kind of records that I like to wake up in the morning are kind of a lot of sort of old soul records and classics. Like I like Frank Sinatra's a good way to wake up in the morning. I find
nice.
As well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I tend to like very melancholic music, so I didn't really want to start the day to in that frame of mind. Yeah. But I wanted to play something new because most of my day-to-day listening to music is from DJing, really. So you know, and there's a lot of really great sort of vocal electronic records around at the moment, and I particularly like that track that you played.
And then we played Cowboys or Indians.
Yes.
UNKLE, which, I mean, to be honest, trying to decide on what we were going to play was pretty difficult. Yeah. To be honest, are you glad we played that one?
I am, yeah, because it's brand new.
Yay!
Yeah.
But that's great for us as fans, knowing that there's still we've got new UNKLE music, which is a great place to be as a music fan.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to be as a music maker to finally get a record being made. Well, I've finished now. Yeah? Yeah, so I've got a new record coming out early next year.
Fantastic.
So really excited about that. It's been the longest time actually since albums. So it's about nearly 7 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get new material out, and I think it's a really good record, so I'm pretty pleased. And I like the track that you just played is a really great sort of bridge to the new album.
What I love about one of the things I love about the UNKLE stuff is the vocals and the surprises and sometimes that you get, and the amalgamation of those vocals for different artists as well. How do you decide on who you want to use and how the vocals will work on those tracks?
I mean, essentially through being a fan of what the person does. So lyrically, it's very important to me. Emotionally, most of the people that I work with, you have a sort of quite emotional connection. Yeah. And things sort of come out of weird social experiences where you kind of meet people along the way and collaborate. This record was interesting because I hadn't made a record for a long time. I'd sort of the incarnation of UNKLE had changed, and now it's kind of me on my own. And I really wanted to make a record that I'd always wanted to make that I hadn't sort of managed to. Yeah. And I wanted to go back to sort of the beginning, to the roots of where I came from, which was more kind of coming from sample culture, hip-hop and sort of more of a black music influence to the record. I'd curated Meltdown a couple of years ago, and that was kind of a new lease of life for me creatively, and how I was interacting with new musicians and artists. So the record kind of came from that experience. So people like Keaton Henson that I worked with there, and people like Esker. And then the sort of going back to classics, I've worked with people like Will Malone, who did all the strings for Lonely Soul, and classics like Unfinished Sympathy with Massive Attack. And I sort of wanted to go back to that period of my life, but also taking elements of what I think is classic about UNKLE. And that's what I've been trying to do with this new record.
Amazing. So. Keaton Henson, we've been playing him on the show. Yeah. Love him. Think he's amazing.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. I think he's one of those really great sort of discoveries if you haven't heard him already. And
Yeah.
and he's got the most beautiful voice. He's a really beautiful person.
Right. He's got this real fear of playing live. I met him
Yeah.
for the first time last week at this Letters Live event that I had to read a letter at, which was equally terrifying. But he was playing at, and he was like, I was chatting to him, and it was like really nice to meet him, and he's like, oh, I was like, you're right. He went, I hate performing.
Yeah,
It's a
he's
weird
definitely.
one for
I
a-
managed to get him to do the Royal Festival Hall with me, which was
It's a small venue.
quite a feat. And it was an amazing. He did a version of Rabbit in Your Headlights, and then we did a version of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, and his voice is just extraordinary. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure to work with people like him.
Great.
And,
All right.
and really inspiring for me, and sort of getting the creative flow again. You know?
Yeah. Well, listen, we got loads to talk about, including this incredible documentary. I mean, it's a real journey to watch. I mean, it was your life. I mean, that's pretty much. It's kind of like James Lavelle. This is your life. It is that. I mean, it must. We'll talk about it in a second in terms of. I guess I want to find out how you felt watching it for the first time as well. But I've thoroughly enjoyed watching it as well. I think you kind of reminded how involved you were, and how much music we have around us now that you're very much involved in bringing to our ears. But we'll talk about it in just a second. James Lavelle here with us on Virgin Radio. You got any questions as well? Get them in at Virgin Radio UK on Twitter.
Virgin Radio.
Edith Bowman at breakfast. Basslines and backbeats. With Mobile from Virgin Media. Your phone, your rules.
And James Lavelle's here with us. We've been talking about the music that he picked as well. There's this wonderful documentary called The Man from Mowat's that is on at the BFI London Film Festival, and I think it's on tonight. Did you just steal my bit of paper? No, someone stole my bit. Tonight and tomorrow and Saturday it's on. Yeah. So if people want to get tickets, they still can by heading to the website, which is bfi.org/LFF. Got that ingrained in my brain. It's amazing. But thanks for coming in to talk about this. But the great thing is that, we're talking about there being a new UNKLE album as well. But tell me about this film and how, because you're very much involved in it. You're in it. I mean, it's about you, but I imagine the interviews and stuff are quite recent, as well as all this fantastic footage that, did you know half of it existed?
Not really, but I mean, it's that thing of you shooting endless video over the last sort of 20 years.
Yeah.
And when this documentary evolved over in various different ways. Originally, it was a series of tour posts.
Yeah.
And then that sort of became this potential film, and it's basically been over the last 10 years.
Wow.
I basically sort of, once I kind of got my head, realised that it was going to happen, and it was happening, I decided to really let go on it. And I gave everything that I'd shot over the last 20 years to them to look at. Some
Great.
things maybe I would rather not have if I'd remembered what was in it.
Yeah.
But I think that, for me, the idea was that it's not. This film isn't made by me. It's not directed by me. It's been directed by Matt and a company called Capture, and they've basically taken a lot of this footage that I shot. They found a lot of other footage, which that's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Seeing, it starts from my childhood, and it focuses a lot, obviously, in the 90s when Mowat's was happening, and at its peak. That side of it is really fascinating for me because there's things that I've never seen. So being in Dingwalls and things like that, I don't know who shot that, but that's like amazing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting seeing the quality of film because it is in the 90s, but it's still kind of like that 80s quality of film to it.
Yeah.
It's not digital, so it's fascinating looking back at that period. And there's a lot of interviews that have been taken that I had nothing to do with, and then there's a series of interviews with me over the last 10 years.
It's funny, like seeing someone like Giles Peterson. It's like, look how young he looks in that video. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Look how young Giles looks, and still looks, may I say.
But that's the thing, is like, it's a culture that has been and was and is so important to the British music industry in terms of, you were so seminal in bringing so many different types of music through Mowat's to people's ears and introducing music, and that's something that people still try and strive for, but isn't that easy to do because of you can get everything now.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely bit in the film where you talk about I was playing this record for the first time to this collection of people in a club sort of thing, and that doesn't really happen anymore.
I think it is different. I mean, in those days you had this, there were this sort of series of club nights that were going on, and the night you're talking about is Bar Rumba on a Monday night, which was me and Giles Peterson, and it was, I think that in many ways there was a lot more barriers then, so there was a lot more to break down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you played, a drum and bass record next to a James Brown record, next to a Carl Craig techno record, that was like unheard of at the time, because things were tended to be more kind of existing in their own environments.
Yeah.
And that was what was so exciting about the sort of that time, probably around sort of 92, 93, 94. And you had clubs like Metalheads, which was Goldie's club, and Speed, which was Fabio and Groove Rider. There was a lot going on drum and bass. There was the Blue Note in Hoxton, which I did a night, and Monday, and it was, everybody would go out, and also it was a way that people discovered records to sign records to labels. So the DJs would be breaking the tracks first generally, and you'd have, so you'd walk into somewhere like Metalheads on a Sunday night, and you'd have, I remember walking in one day, there was Beck and Bjork snogging in the corner, there was 3 guys from London Records in America, there were some guys from Interscope, there was Pete Tong, and then everybody that was raving. And that was that kind of mad mix of stuff that was going on. Or Monday in Bar Rumba, you'd have people like Nelly Hooper, you'd have the IDJ jazz dancers, and you'd have, my crew and Giles's crew and everybody mixing up. And we had resident bands, like we had The Roots was the resident band for a while before they got signed. Alison Goldfrapp, I think, used to sing there a lot. Bjork used to sing there a lot. It was, and there were a lot of, it was a time where people were just really coming together. I think that also there was this great change in London and feeling of new things happening in London. So you had what was going on with fashion as well. So,
that's something that you kind of were really incredible with was that mix of the visuals, and that was as important as well, and especially kind of you're going from Mowax into UNKLE and that kind of thing as well, and even the opening of the dock where it's like you hit with this music and you're like instantly you're in a groove with it, and then you see all the visuals and stuff as well, and that was one thing that you were, I think, kind of at the forefront of, was kind of that amalgamation of everything as well, of kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, when I say us, it was a crew of people when you're doing my work, so it's sort of this crew of people coming together and me at the sort of the helm, and the visual identity of things was incredibly important. We were record collectors, so we were into Def Jam and Warp and Blue Note, and and the covers were as important at times as the music in many ways, or you were discovering records through the covers or vice versa. And I love packaging, and I liked crazy, and I collect a lot of sort of crazy cut records, like octagon cut vinyl and 5-inch records and things like that. And for me it was trying to create something in the UK that had its own identity, but was also drawing on the influence around me, and hip-hop was a huge influence, and the influence of hip-hop was more than just music. There was a design aesthetic, there was the way you dress, and I think for me the pinnacle of that in the UK that gave me the real direction or wanting to do what I did was hearing a record like Blue Lines and seeing a record like Blue Lines. Massive Attack, because the videos were so amazing, the photos were amazing, the artwork was amazing, and it was just this whole package that I love so much. You
mentioned Björk a couple of times. I've just thrown a bit of Björk in, so we're going to play a bit of her, if that's all right. Big Time Sensuality from Björk from 1993 we were just discovering from that. Oh, amazing. Love her. I love how she kind of just challenges people as well with what she does, It's like you never quite know what you're going to get with her.
Yeah, no, she's an amazing artist. I still want to go. I haven't seen the Show at Somerset House yet.
Which you did Kubrick thing, didn't you? How was that?
It was amazing, yeah. Amazing.
Nice to be asked to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my heroes, and so I've worked on it for 5 years, and we did this Daydreaming with Stanley Kubrick, where we had 62 artists react to his work.
What a brilliant thing. What is it with creative types in Star Wars as well? Because there's one scene early on in the film, I can't remember what it's of, but there's like someone's playing with an AT-AT. It might be you.
Probably
me,
you.
Yeah. There's just this thing, it's like Star Wars has got to be part of most DJs, producers,
it was,
kind
for me,
of life.
It was more of an influence on the idea of creating your own universe. I was always fascinated with what George Lucas did with Star Wars. away from just the films.
Yeah.
And the same with Kubrick. That's what really inspired me about what they were doing, where they'd sort of create their own worlds. And, you know, Star Wars had obviously had quite a big influence as a child.
Yeah.
And as you look back on the film, you realise, because I'm looking at it going, what am I doing with a bloody... It wasn't an AT-AT, it was something really train-spotty. I know exactly what it was.
Go on.
Well, it's the Imperial Fighter, which was only released in America, okay?
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where when you got it, it was like people didn't believe it existed. And I got one and people were like, oh, I was like, yeah, see, it exists. Really train-spotty. But I was probably 18 then, and... You know, I watched Star Wars when I was 10, you know. So it's only 8 years difference.
Yeah.
And you realise that you're more a child than you are an adult when you're 18.
Yeah. But that's what comes out in the doc as well, that you people probably won't know, is how young you were when you started, when you left home pretty much and you headed to London and the music made such an impression on you, became your life.
Yeah. Well, I started working in London when I was 14 at a record shop called Bluebird, which doesn't exist anymore. But that was on the Edgware Road, and those were in the days when you had these amazing records that specialised in kind of hip-hop, soul, and the emerging electronic music of the time.
Yeah.
And mainly coming from America, so sort of import stores. And then I went to work at a shop called Honest John's on Portobello Road, which is still there, which is one of the best record shops in London. And that was at the time more of a second-hand jazz and soul and funk, rare groove kind of shop.
Yeah.
And then I started my works when I was 18, so yeah.
I've just had a brilliant idea, because I imagine your record collection is, I'm thinking vaults and storage and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We do a thing on the show called the Vinyl Hour, where for the last hour of the show we just play vinyl.
Yeah.
Because we want to kind of celebrate the brilliance of it. So maybe what we can do around the new UNKLE album is come and play an hour's worth of music from one of your vaults.
Yeah, no,
and you could help us pick some tunes to play.
Yeah,
that
great.
would be amazing.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
we've said it on the radio and it's going to happen.
Virgin Radio.
Edith Bowman at breakfast. Volume, voltage and vitality. With Mobile from Virgin Media. Your phone, your rules.
James Lavelle's with us. Thank you so much for coming in, mate. It's been a real pleasure. The film, as we said, which is called The Man from Mowax, which is showing tomorrow night and Saturday night as part of the BFI London Film Festival. You can get online and see if there's tickets available, which is bfi.org/LFF. So when's the new UNKLE album coming then?
Good question.
What are we talking? Give us a season at least.
Well, first quarter.
First
Isn't
quarter.
That in the record industry? The first
probably,
quarter.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Will you please come back and
yeah, absolutely.
play
I'd
some
love to.
tunes
That'd be great.
and we'll come to yours and play some vinyl if that's
Cool.
If that's all right.
Yeah.
Real pleasure to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. We're gonna what are we gonna do? Should we save the live track for one more?
Yeah.
Should I play one more track? All right, I'll play you this one first. Should we play a bit of the Smiths? Haven't heard the Smiths today. Let's play a bit of the Smiths before we get our final live track that we promised you. James, take care and thank you very much. Great to see you.